Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
fine. So, okay. So now let us start with cloud basics. So I'll not take much of your time. We'll discuss about what is cloud computing and what are the services. I mean, we'll be having what are the cloud models or cloud types. I mean, and what is Azure? Okay, so what are the different services Azure is offering? And I mean, regarding our DP203, right? Azure Data Engineer. I mean, okay, so what skills you require? What are the data platforms we'll be having? And I mean, what are the certification that you need to write or you need to have? What are the skill sets you need to have? So let us try to understand all these things into detail. Okay. Now, so we'll start with cloud computing. So I hope you people know what is cloud computing, right? Even though, I mean, let us try to understand in a simple terms what is cloud. So cloud computing, so it refers to a network on the internet. Okay. So it is nothing but, I mean, in simple terms, I can say that it is nothing but some kind of on-demand delivery of computing resources. Okay. So which can be some kind of servers, storage, databases, networking, software. I mean, analytics or whatever it is. Okay. So on a medium called as internet. So which is provided by some kind of cloud service provider. Okay. And moreover, the services on cloud are on demand, meaning, I mean, whenever you require, I mean, you can have it. Okay. So, and I mean, it is something like pay as you go kind of pricing model. Okay. So, whatever you need, I mean, you can pay, you'll be paying only for those kind of thing. Now, how it is different from the traditional IT computing? So, in the traditional IT computing, what happens is, I mean, so you will be in charge or you need to purchase or you need to, I mean, you will be owning and maintaining all the physical servers, right, in the on-premises kind of thing or the traditional IT services. Okay, so like say for example, you'll be maintaining some different kind of servers. I mean, storage servers or whatever it is. I mean, so you will be regularly you need to maintain those kind of things and you need to take regular backups. I mean, okay, so you need to maintain those, manage all those kind of things. I mean, so I mean, likewise, I mean, there are some kind of drawbacks. I mean, okay, so like say for example, there can be some kind of data hacks or data thefts or whatever it is, or some kind, I mean, sometimes, I mean, due to some kind of natural calamities, right? Okay, so there can be data losses also. Okay, so and moreover, operating, I mean, on the physical, I mean, like say for example, the physical infrastructure or some kind of on-premises kind of things will be very costlier for smaller and medium-sized organizations. So this is where organizations are relying on cloud. Now, why cloud? Let us try to understand now. Okay. Now, say for example, I'll tell you with a simple scenario, guys. Okay. So, say for example, you want to set up a small startup. I mean, okay. So, which, say for example, a small software company. Now, so when you're setting up any kind of software or small organization, right? So you require some kind of server room, right? Okay. So basic need of any kind of IT organization, some kind of server room or some kind of infrastructure room. So where you will be maintaining some kind of database servers or mail servers. Okay. So or some kind of networking. Okay. So networking, firewalls, routers, modems, switches. I mean, so so we also call them as some kind of QPS, I mean, query per second. I mean, okay, so I mean, all the configurable systems, high net speed again, we need to maintain. And even so, there should be some kind of maintenance engineers also who are responsible to maintain all this kind of physical setup. Okay, so regular backups we need to take care of. Okay, now in order to maintain all these things, right? Okay, now it is okay for a, I mean, larger kind of organization. But what about a small kind of organization where, say, for example, if they have some kind of specific growth needs, I mean, say, for example, now, say for example, they have some kind of storage requirements. Okay, so now each and every time they can't shell out huge amounts of, they have to shell out huge amounts of money from their pocket, right? Okay, so in order to maintain all this kind of physical infrastructure. Now, this is where I mean, they're going to cloud computing because cloud computing provides. I mean, see, by cloud computing, we no need to physical maintain any kind of these things, kind of resources, right? Okay, so I mean, we rent some kind of IT sources. I mean, IT infrastructure or whatever it is. Okay, from a cloud service provider. Okay, so with cloud computing, so organizations can rent the IT infrastructure from a specific cloud service provider, whoever it might be. Okay, so whether it can be AWS, Azure, or whatever it is. Okay, so they can build and deploy their code. They can run softwares as per their requirements. I mean, okay, so which in turn can lower their IT expenditure and capital loss. Okay. Now coming to the traditional models, right? What happened is in the traditional models, maintaining all this kind of things were becoming a very tedious task for smaller and medium-sized organizations. Now, even if you look at larger size organizations, right? Okay, even if they want to maintain all this kind of physical structure, physical infrastructure, or whatever it is, okay, so they will be having multiple locations. Their offices might be located in multiple locations across the globe. Now, maintaining each and everything across the globe, well, I mean, it is not a simple task, guys. Okay, so that is why, I mean, they will be incurring huge expenditure and capital costs. Now, capital costs in the sense, I mean, see, even in order to maintain all this kind of physical setup, right, we require some kind of electricity cost also. Okay, again, like say for example, market cost also in order to maintain all this kind of things. I mean, okay, so likewise, I mean, it becomes a burdensome. Okay, so for smaller and medium-sized kind of organizations. Okay, in order to avoid all these kind of things is right. Okay, so today, if you take any organization, most of the organizations, almost all 95% of the organizations are moving to cloud. Okay. With cloud computing, I mean, it becomes very much easier for data backups because automatic data backups will be provided by the cloud service provider. Okay, so if you take the disaster recovery also, and even in order to continue the ease of business, and okay, so all this kind of things becomes very less expensive because of the cloud applications which are being hosted. Okay, so in multiple sites, I mean, okay, so across the cloud service providers network, because these cloud service providers, I mean, they will be hosting your applications on multiple locations across their data centers. Okay, so that is why it becomes very much easier and I mean cheaper. Okay, so in order to access all these kind of things. Now let us take, say for example, there are a lot of examples, guys. Now let me tell you one simple example. So say for example, now I want to access my mail over a certain period of time. Say for example, no, whenever you require, you log into that. I mean, you log into your Gmail. I mean, say for example, you browse your mails. I mean, you browse your charts or whatever it is, and you perform all the tasks. I mean, whatever is required. Okay, so whatever you need. Now, it is some kind of on-demand kind of service, right? Because see, whenever you require it, you are logging into it. Okay, so that service is readily available for you. Okay. Now, no matter, I mean, see, it is hosted near to you. I mean, okay. So, like, say, for example, it is hosted, I mean, to your location. See, we can't say because, see, in cloud, I mean, so what happens is it also, I mean, depends upon the requirements actually. Now, say, for example, let me tell you, I'm having some kind of website. Say, for example, I'm having a website. Okay. Now, I'm getting a lot of traffic from Northern American region. Okay. So, because I have a lot of customers from those kind of region. Okay. Say, for example, I'm having some kind of e-commerce website. So where I'm getting a lot of traffic from those kind of regions now. So in cloud, what happens is, say for example, I can even host that application near to the, like say for example, where I'm getting the traffic. So nearest data center from where I'm getting the, like say for example, the traffic or whatever it is. Okay. So such kind of things, what happens is it becomes very much easier for me to host the application, run the application also. Okay. So that is how, I mean, cloud works actually. Okay. So these are, I mean, some of the things I'm telling you, okay, some of the examples, why cloud is required. I mean, what is the need of cloud and why cloud is important today. Okay. Now, if you look at the benefits of cloud, right? Okay. So as I told you, I mean, with cloud, I mean, we can lower our IT expenditure costs in terms of cost savings. I mean, it is very beneficial. I mean, cloud computing. And coming to the case of agility, right? So in cloud, I mean, we work in a distributed computing environment. Okay, so because I mean, so distributed computing environment means, I mean, resources here are shared among all the users. I mean, so parallelly. Okay. Now, when it comes to the case of high availability and reliability, right? So the availability of service is high and more reliable because the chances of infrastructure failure are minimum. Because see, here we are not hosting any kind of application. We're not installing or not configuring anything. Okay, so the cloud service provider is responsible for all this kind of services. Okay, again, when it comes to the case of high scalability, right? So cloud offers on-demand provisioning of resources on a large scale. Okay, fine. So whenever you require any kind of service, you can readily, I mean, configure it, whatever. Say, for example, if you require any kind of VM or if you require any kind of, I mean, say, for example, storage requirements. Okay. So you can readily, I mean, it is available for you. Okay. Again, say, for example, coming to the case of storage, backup and recovery of data, right? So automatic backups and recovery of data are done on a timely basis. Okay. So even coming to the case of device and location independence, so you can deploy globally in minutes. So as I told you, the example that I'm having some kind of requirement with me, say for example, I'm having some kind of e-commerce website with me. Okay. So where I'm getting a lot of traffic from some kind of particular region. So what you can do is you can deploy that kind of, say for example, or you can deploy or you can host that application to the nearest data center where I'm getting my traffic. Okay. So in ADF, right, while we're building some kind of data pipelines, right? Okay. So I'll show you practically. So how that, I mean, like, say, for example, why you need to deploy in certain regions actually. Okay. So it is always all advisable. So you deploy your application because see, it is, it becomes, I mean, it is useless, right? So say, for example, when you're getting a lot of traffic from US, if I'm hosting my application in China, so that doesn't make any sense, right? Okay. So that is why. Again, coming to the case of speed, yes, of course, I mean, on cloud, you can easily configure any kind of thing, you can easily deploy any kind of thing, and you can easily, like, say, for example, perform any kind of task here. Okay. So that is why. Again, multi-sharing, coming to the case of multi-sharing, right? Okay. So as I told you, with the help of cloud computing, right? So multiple users and applications can work more efficiently. Okay. So because see, here we work in a distributed computing environment here. Okay. So when it comes to the case of services in the pay-per-use kind of mode, yes, of course, I mean, you need to pay whatever service for whatever service your requirement. Okay. So it's not like say for example, in the case of high traditional IT things, right? Okay. So say for example, even if you don't require any kind of service, you have to maintain it, you have to manage it. Again, say for example, there will be some kind of cost in order to maintain and managing that one. Okay. But when it comes to the case of services on cloud, right? So it is always all on demand. Again, you can pay for only whatever service you want to use it. Okay. So these are some of the advantages, guys. I'm not selling these are the only advantages. Likewise, I mean, if you ask me, there are even some kind of cons also. So these are the pros, I mean. So even coming to the case of cons, right? Okay. So always all you need to have a healthy internet connection. That is the one this kind of small disadvantage. The other kind of disadvantages, like say for example, coming to the case of data security, because all our data and applications will be with the cloud service provider itself. So we'll be having some kind of limited kind of features. But again, say for example, so it will be some kind of agreement between you and the cloud service provider whenever you're hosting your applications, right? So it will be some kind of move between the organization, okay, so which is seeking some kind of cloud services from the particular cloud service provider. Okay, so these are the only cons we'll be having, guys. Fine. Now, when it comes to the case of cloud computing architecture, right? So as I told you, like say for example, so we'll be okay. So let us discuss about cloud computing architecture. So if you look at cloud computing architecture, right? So we have say for example, I mean, two parts here. Okay, so the architecture is divided into two parts. Okay, so basically it's front end and the back end. Now, front end is where, like, say, for example, users like you and me will be accessing, okay, so the cloud services through the help of some kind of, like, say, for example, web browser. Okay, so like, say, for example, so front end is used by the client. I mean, okay, so it contains client side interfaces and applications, so which require access to the cloud computing platform. Now, say for example, so you can access these cloud services using some simple web servers, guys. Okay, so like say for example, web clients using some kind of, using some kind of phone or tablet or PC or whatever it is. Okay. Again, when it comes to the case of backend, right? So backend is used by some kind of cloud service provider. So this part, so will be hosted or will be maintained and managed by your cloud service provider. It can be AWS, it can be Azure, it can be GCP or whoever it is. Okay. So when it comes to the case of this one, right? Okay, so cloud service provider will be in charge and will be managing all this kind of services on behalf of, like say for example, okay, so and whenever you require whatever kind of service you require, you can simply rent them. Okay, so on a pricing model, certain pricing model. Okay, so we'll discuss it later. Okay, now again, when it comes to the case of types of cloud, right? So we are having certain types of clouds. So public cloud, private cloud, hybrid cloud, community cloud. Now let us try to understand what are these kind of cloud. Okay. Now when it comes to the case of public cloud, right? So public cloud is something which is open to all. Okay. So anyone can access those kind of services. Now if you say, for example, in the real time examples, right? Now you can see there'll be some kind of whenever you're visiting any kind of airports, okay, so or bus stations or railways or whatever it is, okay, railway stations or whatever it is, you can see some kind of free Wi-Fi service, right? So it is like public kind of thing. So everyone can, I mean, it is open to pay for any kind of service here. Okay. So, I mean, of course, it has its own advantage and disadvantage also. But I mean, coming to this public cloud, right? Organizations generally don't rely on this kind of cloud actually because of a lot of disadvantages with it. Of course, these kind of services, right? So there are certain examples on this kind of public cloud. Again, so when it comes to the case of private cloud, so private cloud is also known as internal cloud or corporate cloud. Now, I mean, most of you might be working in some kind of organizations, right? So now your organizations will be giving you some kind of services, right? So that means it is some kind of private cloud. Now only you can access the services which is being offered by your organization or company, whatever it is. Okay. Now others can't enter into that one. Other can't, I mean, use those kind of services. Okay. So it is a perfect example of a private cloud. So it is used by organizations to build and manage their own data centers internally or by the third party. So it can be deployed using open source tools such as OpenStack and Eucalyptus. Of course, there are a lot of other kind of tools as well. Okay, so primarily they rely on this kind of cloud actually. Again, hybrid cloud. So when it comes to the case of hybrid cloud, right? So hybrid cloud as a combination of public cloud and private cloud. Now, hybrid cloud is partially secure because the services which are running on the public cloud can be accessed by anyone, while the services which are running on a private cloud can be accessed only by the organizations using. Okay. Now, say for example, the examples, I mean, there are a lot of examples for this one. If you look at Google application suite, right? Okay. So you're having a lot of Gmail, I mean, Google apps. I mean, again, the example which I can tell you is like, say for example, Facebook. Okay, so popular social media platforms. I mean, there are, of course, I'm just taking an example of Facebook. So in Facebook, I mean, like say for example, I mean, it is open to all. You can, I mean, like say for example, it is a common platform where people come and discuss over certain issues actually. But again, they form certain groups. I mean, okay, so that groups are meant to, like say for example, are meant for only particular purpose, right? Okay, so that is a perfect example of some kind of hybrid cloud. I mean, so it is a combination of public cloud and private cloud where people can discuss only related to particular groups. I mean, just a minute, guys. Okay, fine. Okay. Now again, coming to the case of community cloud. Community cloud allows systems and services to be accessible by a group of several organizations to share the information between the organization and a specific community. Like say for example, today if you take any kind of healthcare community, okay, so I mean, it is a perfect case of community cloud. Likewise, I mean, if you, I mean, you might be coming across a lot of like say for example, third party some kind of apps, or say for example, so they will be having some kind of like say for example groups. I mean, so people discuss about a particular kind of causes or whatever it is. Okay, so it is also, I mean, some case of community cloud. Okay, so but again, when it comes to the case of real-time application deployments, right? Okay, so especially, I mean, the organizations rely on hybrid cloud and private cloud base. I mean, okay, so coming to the case of deployment kind of things, I mean, again, when it comes to the case of cloud service models, right? Okay, so there are popularly three kinds of like say for example service models we have. So IaaS, which is also called as infrastructure as a service, platform as a service, and software as a service. So these are very, very essential. Now, any kind of cloud service provider, if it is providing you these, I mean, if it is offering you these kind of services, right, then any kind of organizations can rely on those kind of services. Because see, nowadays, I mean, we can see there are even certain cloud service providers which are providing services only on certain cloud service models. Like say, for example, if you take the case of Salesforce, now they are best in terms of SaaS. I mean, okay, so software as a service kind of model. I mean, they have their best CRM applications across the globe. I mean, okay. So likewise, I mean, there are certain cloud service providers who are providing only or offering services only certain kind of models. But when it comes to the case of AWS, Azure, and GCP, okay, so these cloud service providers or these cloud companies, I mean, they're offering services in all these three tiers actually. So that is why they are ruling this cloud market. Okay. Now again, okay, so let us try to understand what exactly this infrastructure as service kind of model is. Okay. Now, infrastructure as a service, okay, so which is also called as hardware as a service, because like say for example, when it comes to the case of infrastructure, right, now generally organizations rely on to a particular cloud service provider. Okay, so in terms of infrastructure, their infrastructure needs, I mean, okay, so infrastructure specifically, I mean, like say for example, it caters from like say for example from some kind of computing resources, networking resources, okay, again some kind of other kind of resources, VMs or whatever it is. Okay, so some kind of examples I'm telling you. Okay, so the main advantage of using infrastructure as a service kind of thing is that it helps users to avoid the cost and complexity of purchasing and managing the physical service. Now, this is why organizations are really relying on to cloud computing, right? Okay, so this is the main factor, because see, reducing the IT infrastructure cost is one of the main reasons every organization today is relying on cloud computing models or a cloud service provider, whatever it is. Okay, now if you look at the infrastructure as service kind of providers network, right, so generally they offer their services into these kind of things actually. Okay, so when it comes to the case of computing, right, okay, so compute, storage, network and load balancers. So computing, when it comes to the case of computing kind of solutions, right, so computing as a service includes virtual central processing units like VMs. Okay, so again, like say for example, provision VMs or certain, even Azure is offering you GPU based VMs also. Okay, so again, coming to the case of storage requirements, right? When coming storage requirements, like say for example, uh, I mean, it can be some kind of databases or any kind of backups, or like say for example, backend storage requirements or whatever it is. Okay, so again, coming to the case of networking kind of thing, right? So network as a service, people also call it as network as a service. So it provides networking components such as some kind of routers, switches, bridges, I mean, modems, or whatever it is. Okay, so all these kind of competing kind of resources. Again, load balancers. So it provides load balancing capability at the infrastructure layer. Like say, for example, whenever you are having heavy kind of network kind of requirements, right? Okay, so it is always all advisable. I mean, you maintain some kind of load balance in order to keep your network up actually. Okay, so that is that comes under this networking kind of requirements actually. Okay, now AWS, coming to the case of AWS, Microsoft Azure and even GCP, they are offering all their services into these kind of things also. Even if you go for AWS, even if you go for Azure, whatever it is, so they have these kind of infrastructure as a service kind of I mean, they provide these kind of services actually, IT services. Okay, again, when it comes to the case of like say for example, so what some of the examples, let me tell you. So from AWS, right, you have some kind of Amazon Elastic Compute Cloud, I mean EC2 kind of instance. Okay, so which is one of the popular infrastructure as a service kind of solutions from AWS. Again, when it comes to the case of Azure, so Azure is offering you Azure VMs, dedicated hosts, GPU optimized VMs also there are, I mean, so for certain kind of applications. Okay, again, from Google Cloud Computing Platform, you have Google Cloud Engine. Okay, again, Rackspace is also offering you. It is also one of the leading infrastructure as a service kind of providers. Again, Cisco. Of course, you're having a lot of devices from Cisco Meta Cloud. You have, which is one of the popular AWS providers. Again, DigitalOcean, Linode. Okay, so to name a few, these are a few of the providers, guys. I mean, in these kind of service models. Okay, again, and now when it comes to the case of platform as a service, right, so what exactly is a platform as a service? So platform as a service provides a runtime environment. Basically, I mean, it is a platform, I mean, provided by the cloud service provider. So it is best suitable for developers in order to build and run their code, in order to deploy and even test their code also. Okay, so you might be having requirement on Java, you might be having requirement on certain platforms like Python, Scala, whatever it is. Okay, so platform, I mean, it is readily available for you. I mean, okay, so whenever you require, I mean, again, it is some kind of on-demand kind of application. Okay, so it allows programmers to easily create, test, run, and deploy web applications. So in past, backend scalability is managed by the cloud service provider. So end users do not need not worry about managing the infrastructure. Again, when it comes to the case of PaaS, right? Okay, so whatever the underlying infrastructure is there, right? So the cloud service provider will be responsible in order to give you those kind of services. Okay, so you no need to worry about your, infrastructure kind of needs. Your CPU or your again network interface card or whatever it is. Okay, so again VMs, whatever it is. So everything will be taken care by your cloud service provider. Okay, so we'll be giving you some kind of platform in order to host your applications, design and deploy your applications. Okay, so when it comes to the case of PaaS infrastructure, right? So you have some kind of server storage and networking and platform middleware kind of, middleware development tools, okay, in order to support your web application lifecycle. Okay, so PaaS providers provide the programming languages, application frameworks, databases, and other tools. Okay, so whatever application requirements are there for you, it is readily available for you. Okay, the underlying software, the underlying infrastructure needs will be taken care by your cloud, cloud service provider. Again, when it comes to the case of PaaS providers, right? Okay, so from AWS, we're having AWS Elastic Beanstalk, okay, and from Azure, we're having Azure App Service, so which is one of the popular PaaS providers now, which is giving a very tough competition for AWS and even other cloud service providers. Okay, Heroku, Force.com, Google App Engine, Apache Stratos, Magento, Commerce Cloud, OpenShift, and these are some of the providers in these areas, actually, these service models, actually. Okay, fine. Now, when it comes to the case of software as a service kind of applications, so SaaS is also known as on-demand software, actually, meaning, you don't need to install anything. You don't need to worry about your platform, what kind of application or what kind of language it is. Okay, so best, like, say, for example, to let you know, a simple application or some kind of example. So if you take some kind of CRM kind of application from Salesforce, right? So it is one of the number one CRM applications today. Okay, so it comes under SaaS based kind of application, guys. So with SaaS, cloud providers host and manage the software application and underlying infrastructure and handle any maintenance like software upgrades and security patching. Now if you look at, like, say for example, I'm having some kind of data with me. Okay, now I don't with SaaS, you don't need to worry about like, say for example, installing any kind of thing or running any kind of software. Okay, the software is readily available for you. You can like, say for example, use it as per your needs and requirements. Now say for example, Gmail is also some kind of example which comes under these kind of service models, guys. Now what you're doing Gmail, are you hosting anything? No, right? Are you maintaining that one? No, right? So whenever you require that one, you log into your Gmail application and you say, for example, if at all you want to send any kind of email, you compose it. Okay, or else you check and you browse your mails also. You perform other kind of services like chatting or whatever it is. Okay, so like, say for example, so it is on-demand software. So whenever you require it, you can use it. Okay, so that is a perfect example which comes under these kind of service models. Okay, so users have to connect to these kind of applications with their through some kind of web clients. Okay, so through their phones, tablets, or any kind of PCs. Okay, fine. So there are certain applications. Okay, so coming when it comes to the case of SaaS providers, right? Okay, so those applications falls into these kind of areas, actually. So business services. So business services popularly include some kind of ERP and CRM kind of applications or billing softwares and sales kind of softwares, actually. Okay, so which comes under these kind of applications. Now, if you, to be precise, so you might have heard about Salesforce, right? Okay, so Salesforce CRM and ERP applications, SaaS ERP applications. Again, Microsoft Dynamics. Okay, so when it comes to the case of sales, Zoho software. All these kind of softwares comes under these kind of applications, business services. Again, document management. So SaaS document management is a software application offered by a third party to create, manage, and track electronic documents. Okay, so Slack, SamePage, Box, Zoho Forms, again Google Forms, Adobe Acrobat, all this comes under this kind of document management. So which is a perfect example of SaaS. Again, when it comes to the case of social media networks, right? Today, there are a lot of social media networks which also falls under this kind of category. Again, email services, so perfect example, Gmail, okay, so we're having certain other email clients also, okay, in order to handle the different users or as per their requirements. Okay, so these are the different kinds of SaaS providers, so like, say for example, which they offer services into these kind of areas, actually. Okay, now lastly, when you compare these kind of models, right, you will get some kind of brief understanding what exactly we will be doing actually here. Okay, so let us try to say, for example, first of all, let us try to understand this on premises. So on premises is where, like, say, for example, any kind of organization, so they will be responsible in order to maintain their physical hardware. Okay, so physical hardware includes some kind of CPUs, RAM. Okay, so allocated hard disk or network interface card. On top of that one, you'll be having some kind of hypervisor. Again, you'll be running some kind of virtual machines and all those kind of things. So as per your requirements, you might be having different kinds of OS requirements also, whether it is Windows, Linux, or whatever it is. Okay. On top of that one, again, you'll be hosting your applications. You'll be running your applications. I mean, you'll be managing, building, and deploying your applications. Okay. Again, the end user kind point of view. But coming to this one, right? Okay, so it is entirely, I mean, like say, for example, you will be responsible in order to physically maintain all this one, manage all this one. Okay, when it comes to the case of on-premises. Again, when it comes to the case of infrastructure as a solutions kind of thing, right? Okay, so now, like say, for example, so as I told you, the underlying infrastructure will be provided by the cloud service provider. Okay. On top of that one, like, so for example, now it is up to you what kind of OS you want to run, what kind of applications you want to, I mean, like, so for example, deploy into that one, and what kind of application you want to build on that one. That will be managed by you. Rest of the things will be managed by your cloud service provider. Again, when it comes to the case of platform as a service, right? So as I told you, the underlying infrastructure as well as some kind of OS needs or whatever the runtime environments are there. I mean, the platforms or whatever you want to host the applications. So all those will be taken care and will be provided by your cloud service provider. Again, on top of that one, the data storage needs or whatever it is, what kind of data you're dealing, what kind of application you're building. Okay, so which, I mean, entirely will be owned by you and will be managed by you. Okay, so rest of the things will be taken care by your cloud service provider. Again, when it comes to the case of software as a service, right? So the entire thing, again, right from your physical, say, for example, hardware requirement, that is the infrastructure requirements, and again, platform kind of requirements, again, like, say, for example, the softwares. Okay, so these are readily available softwares, like, say, for example, your Power BI. Okay, so which is from Microsoft. I mean, okay, so again, your CRM kind of applications, which is from Salesforce. Likewise, of course, there are a lot of softwares also. Again, coming to the email clients, you're having Gmail. Okay, so even like, say, for example, this Zoom meetings, I mean, it is also perfect example of this one, guys. Okay, so it is also one of the example of this software as a service kind of models here. Okay, so the cloud service provider will be taking care of all these kind of things. Only you need to, I mean, like, say, for example, use that application according to your needs. Now, say, for example, I'm having some kind of data with me. Okay, I want to come up with some kind of data model and build some kind of reports and dashboards. Okay, so I'm having Power BI. Okay, so I know, I mean, say, for example, on cloud, I'm having Power BI Cloud actually. Okay, so I no need to install any kind of thing here. Okay, so readily I can use that software. I can build some kind of reports and dashboards onto that one. Okay, so likewise, I mean, if you take the case of Gmail, okay, you're not hosting anything, you're not maintaining that one, you're not managing that one. Okay, so as and when you require, you can log into your Gmail kind of thing. Okay, you can browse your emails or whatever it is. Okay, again, when it comes to the case of meeting softwares, like go to meeting, like, say, for example, again, Zoom, I mean, whatever it is. Okay, so you can log in and like, say, for example, you can attend some kind of team meetings or whatever it is. Okay, so which are all the examples of this software as a service kind of models here. Okay, so the cloud service provider will be responsible in order to give you all these kind of services. Now, again, it depends upon the companies or the organization needs here. Okay, so they might be having some kind of requirements on the infrastructure end, or they might be having some kind of I mean, requirements onto some kind of different platforms, because today we are having some different applications, right, which are being hosted onto different kinds of platforms here. Okay, so might be some kind of organization might be having some those kind of requirements, or like, say, for example, in order to like, say, for example, give some kind of service to the end users, right, I require some kind of software here. Okay, so they might be having some kind of requirement on those kind of areas. Okay, so it depends completely on the organization needs here. Okay, sorry guys. Fine. So these are the like, so for example, cloud service model. Okay, so when you compare, you can understand it. Okay, so this is all about, so I mean, what is cloud computing? I mean, what are the different kinds of service models? I mean, okay, again, we have understood what are the different kinds of types. I mean, okay, so I mean, we are having certain types, right? So public cloud, private cloud, hybrid cloud, community cloud. Fine. So we given again understood what is cloud computing architecture basically. So what are the benefits? Of course, we have even discussed what are the drawbacks of cloud as well. Okay. So why we require cloud? I mean, okay. Now let us try to understand. I mean, what is Microsoft Azure and what are the different kinds of services it is offering. And again, like say for example, we'll also see. What kind of data? I mean, what is the data path here? What skills you require? Okay, so we'll try to understand those things into detail. Okay. So when it comes to the case of Azure, right? So Azure, Microsoft Azure, I mean, it is also popularly called as Microsoft Azure also. So it is Microsoft public cloud computing platform. So, I mean, where developers and IT professionals used to build, deploy and manage cloud services and resources using a network of remote services and data centers. Okay. Now, like say, for example, so we have till now we have discussed cloud computing, right? The different kinds of cloud types and the service models and what are the different kinds of services they're offering you. Okay. Now Azure is one of the leading cloud computing platforms. It is the second most leading cloud computing platforms across the globe in terms of market share and in terms of user, like say for example, acquisition, right? Okay. So it is the number one kind of cloud computing platforms today. Okay. Because as I told you, I mean, even you can browse it also. Okay, so you can Google it also. I mean, the customers acquisition. I mean, the customer base. Okay, so is increasing rapidly for Azure because of the kind of services they are offering you and because of the ease of use also. Of course, in certain areas, I mean, it is complex also. You require some kind of skills, of course. Okay, but companies, I mean, across the globe or organizations across the globe are quickly adopting to Azure. Okay. Now, so you need to connect to the Azure portal to get access to the resources and services. Of course, on the last session, I've shown you what is how Azure portal looks like. Okay, again, we'll be discussing all those things. Now, when it comes to the case of features of Azure, right? So basically, it is free to start, and of course, you can go. I mean, as per pay per use kind of model. Okay, so almost, more than 90% of Fortune 500 companies today are using Azure services, guys, for their cloud computing needs. And it supports various programming and scripting languages like your C Sharp, Java, Node.js, Python, Scala, and Visual Basic, and some other kind of languages, of course. And when it comes to the case of data centers, right? So today, Azure is having the highest number of data centers across the globe. Sorry. Okay. So Azure is providing access to the cloud services 24/7, support and security. Again, when it comes to the case of market share, right? So it is second and almost all the second most in terms of market share when it comes to the case of, market share kind of thing, cloud computing market share. But again, so why choose Azure? As I told you, it's more than 90% of the Fortune 500 companies, are using Microsoft Cloud. Now, basically, Microsoft got started in the year 2010, actually. Of course, they implemented this in 2008 itself, but enterprise kind of things, they have started it in the year 2010. But since then, they have rapidly grown like anything, guys. Okay. If you look at the growth trend, right? So you can see, in 2015 quarter two, almost all they were $5.5 billion. But coming to the case of 2019, right? They are almost all $44 billion. Okay. So again, you can see, till 2002, right? Okay. So it's almost all, it is more than 50 plus actually. Okay. So their revenue, and the revenue is growing like anything because of the user base or whatever it is. Okay. So, and it has even potential to overtake AWS also. We might see, in future, this might be the case also. Azure might overtake AWS also because of the vast kind of services they are offering in different kinds of domains and areas actually. Okay. And when it comes to the case of Azure services, as I told you, so you can see the applications have been hosted onto different kinds of data structure infrastructure. So data center infrastructure. So you have some kind of compute resources, virtual machines, containers, and Azure Kubernetes. So some kind of containers kind of services. Again, when it comes to the case of storage requirements, right? So you're having blob services, queues, files, and disk also. Again, coming to the case of networking, you're having virtual networks, load balancers, DNS, express route, traffic manager, VPN gateways, app gateways. So likewise, I mean, if you look at this platform services, right? So as I told you, when it comes to the case of developer services, you're having Visual Studio, Azure DevOps, and application insights, Visual Studio, App Center, Xamarin. Okay, so which is also used in some latest applications here, mobile engagement also. Again, you're having computing services, of course, so which is app service, as I told you, right? App service, VM scale sets and app service. Okay, so now it is a very big competitor to AWS also. Okay, so in computing services, you're having popular services like container service, VM scale sets, Azure batch services, and developer and test labs. When it comes to the case of integration, again, you're having certain services here. Application platform, you're having all the web and other kind of application platform specific services here. And when it comes to the case of data, so SQL database, SQL data warehouse. Now, of course, this is called as Synapse Analytics. I mean, okay, so they will come up with a lot of analytics features onto that one. Again, Cosmos DB for managing unstructured data and real-time kind of data here. Again, SQL Server Stretch Database, Azure Cache for Redis. I mean, table storage. Of course, you're having a lot of things into that one. I mean, we'll be learning bit deeper into this one. I mean, okay, so because we are heavy, I mean, see, our main concentration will be on this data part, right? So data platform. Okay. Again, when it comes to the case of intelligence, right? Okay, artificial intelligence, you're having some kind of cognitive services, bot services. I mean, where you can build some kind of chatbots, cognitive services, which will be helpful for your deep learning kind of applications, computer vision, I mean, again, augmented reality, virtual reality kind of applications also. Again, Azure ML Studio, where you can design your machine learning kind of applications even, where you can design some kind of predictive models and some other kind of clustering models. And again, when it comes to the case of analytics and IoT, yes, of course, you're having requirements. I mean, like, so for example, services which are being offered into big data kind of areas like is the insight, stream analytics, machine learning. Okay, if you're having data lake analytics, I mean, so again, data lake storage also, IoT hubs and event hubs, of course, data factory, which will be learning a lot, again, Power BI embedded kind of thing. Okay, so these are only to name a few. So we'll be completely focusing on to these kind of things, I mean, analytics and data kind of thing. Okay, now when it comes to the case of Azure data engineering job market, right? So you can see the trend is increasing like anything, I mean, even when you search this one, right? Okay, performing data engineering on Azure is a very big trend now across the globe, not just in India. Okay, so because of the services that are being offered on Azure and because of its ease of use, okay, so today Azure data engineer job roles has become a trend like anything. Now, even in this recession, guys, let me tell you frankly, okay, no companies are hiring, only few are hiring, right? Okay, so but even if you look at right today across the globe, I mean, you can see vacancies or job requirements onto this data engineering kind of loads a lot. Okay, especially, okay, when it comes to this job requirements, right? So currently, data engineers are getting hired actually, rather than some other kind of services. Even if you take data scientists or AI engineers, right? Okay, so those, I mean, even, I mean, we don't have sufficient calls on that one, but data engineers, I mean, is the need of the hour actually. Okay, because see, I mean, as you know, I mean, there is a lot of job actually, I mean, lot of data today. Okay, so managing and maintaining those kind of things, I mean, are essential today. Okay, so that is why there is a need for data engineering kind of roles here, job roles. And when it comes to the case of job roles, right, whether you might be working as an ETL developer or you might be working as a data scientist, data analyst, or any kind of database administrator or any other kind of data role. Okay, so you need to have an understanding or like, say, for example, I can say you need to have some skill sets. Okay, so even if you're learning data scientist, right, even whether you want to write some kind of certification onto Azure data scientist, okay, you need to have knowledge on Databricks. I mean, okay, so because Databricks is some kind of platform where we can perform or where we can run some kind of Spark based kind of jobs and Python based kind of jobs. Okay, you can even write some kind of PySpark kind of applications. Okay, you can design some kind of PySpark kind of cluster based applications. You can perform some kind of advanced analytics kind of applications here. So when it comes to the case of this one, right, Azure data engineer kind of thing, right? Okay, now, an Azure data engineer should have, I mean, basic understanding or of all these kind of things. I mean, here. Okay. So, like, say, for example, skill set varies also. Like, say, for example, if at all you want to go in as a complete data engineer kind of professional, right? So, you need to have knowledge onto all these kind of areas. Or like say, for example, if at all you want, I mean, see, even there are separate job openings or job roles onto, like say, for example, data factory also, Azure Data Factory. Or like say, for example, you can see, I mean, there are requirements onto only Azure Databricks even. Or some organizations are even asking only Azure Synapse Analytics also. Okay, so Azure Synapse Analytics and data lake kind of requirements. Okay, it depends upon their requirements. But even if you master any of these kind of things, right? Okay, you can easily secure a job, guys. Let me tell you. Okay, so you do have Azure Data Factory, Azure SD Insight, Azure Data Catalog. Of course, I mean, so how you will be maintaining those kind of data backups or whatever it is. Again, you're having Azure Stream Analytics, Synapse Analytics, storage. When it comes to the case of storage requirements, you're having blob kind of service. I mean, so which will be working on ADF, in ADF kind of thing. Again, you're having data lake kind of storage, Azure Databricks, of course, which is the main ingredient of this one. I mean, this one, Azure Data Factory, Azure Databricks, and Azure Synapse Analytics. Again, coming to the case of how to handle the real-time data or the streaming data, you are having Azure Stream Analytics. But again, how to manage the real-time data and unstructured kind of data, you're having Azure Cosmos DB. And coming to the case of structured data, of course, we're having Azure SQL database even. Okay, so if you master any of these skills, right? Say for example, Azure Data Factory with again Azure Data Lake. I mean, again Databricks with Azure Data Lake, Azure Synapse Analytics, again some part of Databricks and Azure Data Lake. You can easily secure a job onto data engineer kind of roles. You can even go in as a complete data engineer also, but of course, again, it requires some kind of time in order to master all these kind of things. But again, so there are humongous guys. I mean, there are a lot of job roles onto this areas actually. So because why, let me tell you now. So until like say for example last 5 years, right? Okay, so the buzzword data scientist, I mean, you can see, right? Okay, so the buzzword data scientist, so they, I mean, they were hyping it like anything actually. But again, let me tell you, I mean, data scientists, I mean, even in order to perform, say for example, in order to perform any kind of predictive model, right? You, before that one, you need to perform, like say for example, some kind of data pre-processing kind of thing you need to perform. Again, who is responsible for that one? I mean, the data engineers. I mean, okay, so unless and until you have some kind of structure kind of models, or like, say, for example, the formatted kind of models, right? You again can't work on those kind of things actually. Okay, so that is why these roles have become a lot of important because of the rise of unstructured data also today. Okay. Now, again, when it comes to the case of Azure data certification path, okay, so like, so for example, when it comes to the case of fundamentals, you're having DP 900. On the last session also, I told you, I mean, you need to have thorough understanding of these kind of areas. I mean, okay, Azure data fundamentals. Okay, so even like, say, for example, you might be attempting or writing this kind of certification, data analyst and Power BI. So D100. DP100 Azure Data Scientist, or you might be our now our path is DP203. Okay, so for all these kind of data requirements, right? Okay, so these data fundamentals are essential. Okay, now coming to the again expert part, you're having DevOps engineer, and again you're having Azure Solutions Architect. So that is something again different. Okay, so which will be not I mean discussing about that one. But again, coming to these kind of roles, right? Okay, so in order to master this one, you need to have a basic understanding of what exactly this one is. Okay. Now, so in order to understand these one, right? Okay, so Azure Data Fundamentals. Okay, so I mean, we'll be discussing something about. I mean, first of all, even before that one, you need to understand what are the different kinds of data platforms I'm having on Azure. Okay, so when it comes to the case of storage account, right? So I mean, so when you require this one, for what purpose you require this one, I've given you each and everything here. Okay, so when you need a low cost, high throughput data store, right? Okay, so we'll be going for storage account kind of needs. I mean, okay, so when you need to store NoSQL kind of data, again, we'll be going for this one. So what is storage account basically? So basically, it's a blob service kind of thing. So it can be even Azure Data Lake kind of storage also. Okay, so as per your data, I mean, needs and requirements. Now, again, like, so for example, when it comes to the case of unstructured kind of data, right? As I told you, I mean, you can save the data in its native format. Okay, so that is where we'll be going for data lake. Okay, Again, data lake plus data, like, so for example, data warehouse, which is also called as lake house kind of architecture. Of course, today we'll be also designing some kind of delta lake kind of architectures also. Okay, so we'll be coming to understanding. We'll be learning those kind of things when we'll be learning about Azure data lake kind of thing. Okay, so what is delta lake? So today in organizations, they are maintaining some kind of delta lake kind of architecture. So why and what is the need of that one? So we'll discuss it later as part of our course. Okay. Again, what is Azure Databricks? So, like, so for example, basically it runs on Spark kind of clusters, guys. Okay. So, why Spark? Let me tell you why not any other kind of languages, because Spark will let you run multiple applications on a single node itself. Okay, so it's not like a .NET or some other kind of applications. Okay, so that's why the application runtime becomes very much faster. So that is why they have employed Databricks onto any kind of cloud platforms here. Okay, so now in real-time applications, what happens is, so there becomes a need actually in order to run applications, multiple applications on different clusters on the same cluster also. Okay, so now if you don't have, like, say, for example, Spark kind of cluster based kind of environment, right? Okay, so it requires very longer time, and even it consumes a lot of power also, like, say, to say computing powers. Okay, so that is why heavy, we deploy those kind of Spark clusters even before we run any kind and deploy any kind of applications here. And again, in order to perform some kind of advanced analytics and some other kind of machine learning kind of activities also, Azure Databricks also essential in those kind of activities. Again, when it comes to the case of Azure Cosmos DB, right? So Azure Cosmos DB also, I told you, right? In order to maintain and manage real-time data applications, unstructured kind of applications. Okay, so we'll be using this Azure Cosmos DB. Okay, so we'll be understanding it later. And again, when it comes to the case of Azure SQL database, all the relational and structured kind of data applications, okay, so we'll be maintaining and managing onto this Azure SQL database. So like, say, for example, even if you're having any kind of on-premises kind of data which is being stored in your SQL database, right, of SQL database, okay, so you can even, lift and shift onto this Azure SQL database, okay, onto cloud. Okay. Again, when it comes to the case of Synapse Analytics, of course, this is the, as I told you, this is the main weapon of Azure now. Okay. When it comes to the case of data warehousing requirements and analytics requirements, right? Okay. So Azure Synapse Analytics is the main ingredient and main weapon from Azure. Okay. So which is a very, very big competitor to Google BigQuery and Amazon Redshift. Okay, so now organizations, because of this weapon only, multiple organizations, they are now relying on to Azure, guys. Let me even tell you, when it comes to the case of analytics and other data warehousing and data requirements, right? So this is the main tool from Azure. So that is why they are relying on to Azure. Okay, again, coming to the case of Azure Stream Analytics, as I told you, streaming analytics or some kind of IoT kind of requirements, we are having this kind of service. Again, data factory requirements, this is where you build some kind of data pipelines, CI/CD kind of data pipelines. Okay, you orchestrate that one. That means you automate the process of building those data pipelines and continuous flow of data. Actually, again, you manage and monitor all those kind of data pipelines here. Okay, so either through from different kinds of data sources here. Okay, so we'll be learning a lot onto this one. Again, when it comes to the case of Azure HD Insight, so it is some kind of Hadoop platform kind of things. Okay, so where you can extract the data and manage some kind of data here. Again, when it comes to the case of data catalog is some kind of data documentation. So where you manage and maintain the data. Okay, so in its raw format or whatever it is. Okay, so all these kind of things you need to know if at all you want to go in as a complete data engineer kind of professional. Okay, so as I told you, it also depends upon your requirement, guys. Say, for example, you can even master ADF also, or even you can master separately Databricks, or even you can master Synapse Analytics also. Even you find a lot of job openings on this one as well. Okay. Again, by the end of the day, it completely depends upon you. Your needs and your job needs on whatever it is. Okay. So these are the things which we'll be covering and which we'll be learning a lot. Tomorrow's session will be covering, what these fundamentals are. Azure data fundamentals. Okay. So one or two sessions will be covering this one. From Monday, I'll be starting everything in practical. Okay. Fine. So from Monday, it will be completely practical, guys. Okay. So we'll be doing the sessions. Okay. So I'll be doing it and I'll be showing you. So how to create a data pipeline. How to perform some kind of data flow activities into EDF. I mean, okay. So how to design some kind of storage accounts. I mean, how to design some kind of data lake kind of accounts. I mean, okay. Again, how to perform other kind of activities. So again, every lab activity I will show you. I mean, how to perform those kind of things, even data breaks and synapse analytics even. Okay. So before that, we'll be covering this one, and from Monday, we'll be looking completely practical oriented sessions. Okay. So that's it, guys. In tomorrow's session, as I told you, we'll be discussing about this one in detail. Yeah. Fine. So any questions?
Hi, it is Pranay here.
Yeah. Hi,
So like generally I'm from a ETL background, like from the ETL data stage in Oracle DB. So what you said, it's my first session what I'm coming across today. Like data platforms, what you said, storage accounts and the Cosmos DB Synapse Analytics. I think it will be helpful to me to upgrade the skills on the
Yes, yes,
cloud.
definitely. Yeah, definitely.
Okay. So like there are new concepts like Python, PySpark, and I have zero knowledge in this one. So
Yeah, need not worry. I mean, see,
mm,
basically, I'll tell you, I mean, it's not a big task actually. Python is very simple to learn. So whenever we require, I mean, even before we deploy those kind of Spark-based kind of clusters, right? Okay, so we'll be learning some thing onto Python. Okay, Python and Spark also. I'll make you learn. Need not worry about that.
okay, okay. And I think you will be covering one the traditional database migrating to the cloud in
Yes,
each
yes, of
aspect.
course, of course, of course.
Oh, fine. So just duration is 45 days, right, for this one?
Yes, 2 months.
And you will
Yes.
be sharing the videos every day, or whatever
Yeah,
we
yeah.
cover.
You can ask the management, so they will be sharing you. That's not a problem.
Okay, okay. Fine. Thank you.
Yeah, fine. Anything else,
So
guys?
every day it will be a 1 hour class
So
in
basically, now
evening.
I'm taking only 1 hour, but when it comes to the case of practical oriented sessions, right? So it will be for longer hours only, 1.5 hour or 2 hours also I'll take.
Okay.
So basically, these are only the basics, I mean, which you need to understand. So that is why I'm telling you all the theoretical part itself.
Okay.
So the class will be from Monday to Friday, right?
Yes, yes. So in case if you require class on Saturday, I'll be taking it on morning hours, guys.
Okay, and will you be giving the assignments as well during the
Yes,
session?
yes, of course. I'll give you some assignments as well.
And any certification guidance for like a DP 900 or 203 also, right?
Yeah, I'll tell you after the course, and I mean, I'll tell you how you need to prepare for the certification.
Okay.
See, basically, guys, let me tell you, I mean, in certification path also, I mean, if at all you want to prepare for certification and clear your certification, so basically, the computing kind of requirements, again, some kind of Databricks and Synapse Analytics, the questions will be more onto those kind of areas. So we'll discuss, I mean, when it comes to the case of Synapse or Databricks, right? So we'll discuss, I mean, each and everything there.
And will you be covering the basics of like HDFS and the big data concepts as well?
Big data concepts, see, whatever is required, will be covering only those part, not the complete big data kind of things. Yes, of course, while developing any kind of application, I'll tell you what exactly it is.
Okay, fine.
Yeah, hi, Himanshu this side. So like you will be giving any project work also, like because this is very important because how to if you go in a real-time scenario, like how data ingestion and how pipelines are creating and how transformation of data from storage. So all these things is required, you know. So
Yes, yes,
is
of
all
course,
this
we'll be working on all those things here.
no, but work is project kind of work will also be there or like
See,
simple like
basically, first you people see, let me guide you well. Okay, so basically, first of all, try to understand, I mean, try to, like, say, for example, ingest the data. Now, if it comes to the case of ADF, right? So you need to know certain things in ADF, like how to ingest the data, how to perform some kind of data flow activities or certain kind of things. Now, that is the same kind of things which will be performing in real time as well. Okay.
yeah, yeah, that is
So
there,
if you
yeah.
can understand those things, that is enough actually.
Okay. But pipeline concepts and all will be there, right? In our this
Sorry?
course. pipelines, how to create pipelines and
Yes, of course,
streaming
that
of
is the
data.
main thing, right? In ADF, so we'll be covering all those things.
Okay, okay. And one more thing, like I don't have any knowledge. I'm Oracle DBA basically, so I
Mhm.
don't have any knowledge of Python and PySpark is all new to me, you know. So we'll
So
be
that is
able
what,
to.
see,
Mhm.
Python and Spark, I mean, so whenever we learn Databricks, that is, before learning Databricks, I'll teach you, I mean, the basics of Python and Spark. Whatever is required, we'll be learning this.
Okay, okay. So additional knowledge of Python is not required for this course,
Yeah.
yeah?
Yeah.
Okay.
Hello. Hi, sir. This is Shiva Prasad.
Yeah, hi,
Sir,
Shiv.
is 2 months is enough for preparing for this course, sir? I mean, Azure Data Engineering. Is this
See, 2
fine, sir?
months, I'll make you learn this kind of, okay, so labs, I mean, whatever is, okay, so we'll be covering it in 2 months. Yes, of course, again, if you ask me 2 months is required, it depends again upon you. Okay. So if you want to clear a certification, again, you have to put in, I mean, you have to take your time and clear the certification, guys. Okay. So need not hurry and need not rush here. Okay. So first of all, do this practice. I mean, so it will be, see, even if you want to project yourself onto this data engineering by putting 2 or 3 years of kind of experience, right? So it will be sufficient for you. Okay. So without any other course knowledge, can I practice and learn this course? If you ask me, yes, of course, see, I mean, at least basic understanding of SQL is required. But again, SQL is very simple to learn. It's okay. So that is required. Rest of the things, I mean, we'll be learning here. Okay. So how to perform, how to do all those activities, I'll be showing you. Yeah, need not worry, guys. Even if you're from any background, also need not worry. Okay. Just master that skill set. That is enough actually nowadays. Skills are important, guys. I mean, not your academic background. Let me tell you frankly. No one is looking at your academic background today. Only if you're having the right skills, you'll be easily getting admin anywhere else across the globe. Fine, guys. Okay. So, yeah.
Sir, one more thing. I
Yes.
mean, will you tell us some shortcuts in SQL or in Python when it is required?
Shortcuts. What do you mean
I
by short?
mean, by if there is any lengthy programming or like that in SQL.
See, basically, we don't write any programs in SQL, but again, if when it comes to the case of Python, right, it is very simple to write any kind of code. It's not like your Java where you write lengthy lines of code. So that is why even mastering Python is also very simple only. Even if you continuously put in your efforts for 2 months, right, you can master Python. Anyone can master Python.
Okay, sir.
Daily 2 hours you put in your efforts. Okay, so we practice Python. Okay, within 2 months you'll become master. It's not a big deal, guys. I mean. Okay, fine, guys. So let's meet tomorrow then. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, sir. Good night.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.